be against the law to look this damn good. Watch out now. Cause baby, I feel real good and I wish I would. Watch out now. It's gotta be against the law to look this damn good.
Wake up! Yeah, it's Monday. It's time to wake up. We got some stuff to talk about. This is Vape AM, brought to you by Vapers1.com. I'm your host, Anthony Ramella. Well, like we do every day just about, I'm going to bring you guys some news, but we're going to start off the show this morning like we normally do with a little history. I don't have a lot of history for you guys, but I found something I thought was pretty interesting. The series Friends actually showed their season or series finale on this date in 2004, and I can't believe it's been that long ago. 15 years ago was the last show of Friends. I know I still watch it. I know a lot of the people that work here still watch it. It still has some relevance, but I thought that was kind of funny that it was the last episode was shot on this date. Something I found interesting recently was that 4 of the actors that have played the Marlboro Man, like in commercials, all died from smoking-related diseases. And I thought, wow, that seems like a lot. Imagine if 4 out of the 6 Friends had died from something that happened to them on the show, like they were all allergic to Marcel or something like that, and they all passed away. I mean, that's a considerable percentage of people to pass away from something like that. So just a little food for thought. All right, well, I'll tell you what. The only birthday that I really had for you today, I looked around and there was a lot of YouTube stars and TikTok stars and things like that today, but the big one was George Clooney. So happy birthday, George Clooney. If you are old enough and you can tell me, other than Friends, what show did George Clooney play a doctor on? We'll see where your trivia is as far as TV goes. But anyway, so answer down in the comment section. There might be a little surprise in it for you. All right, so anyway, we're going to go on to our Wake and Vape news this morning because I do have quite a few things to talk about, and I'm sure you saw the title of this episode, so I'm sure you're ready to jump right in. One good piece of news to start off with today, I found out late last week that Colorado did vote down that 62% tax on vape products, so way to go, Colorado. That was definitely a step in the right direction for them, and I'm glad to see there's some level heads finally figuring out that that was not the way to go. So nice job, Colorado. All right, so today's big topic, as you can tell from the title, is vaping dead? After the episode we did on Thursday, I really jumped in deep, watched a lot of different videos, read a lot of reports, looked at a lot of different things from the government as far as their policies and procedures and what things were available on what dates and all of that. I tried to get this information as correct as possible. There is a possibility that there might be a few little small things that I might have gotten incorrect here, but I think the gist of what I'm going to say is actually really, really true. So basically, let's start out at the top here, and I kind of numbered these. I may do a little bit of reading today just because I did take some time to put this together. So we spoke last week about the IQOS passing its PMTA. Now, that PMTA was submitted more than 2 years ago and now was just recently approved. So it kind of gave a benchmark for the time period it's going to take to approve these PMTAs. So now that there's only about 2 years left until the deadline that was recently moved up, I'm thinking that this is a little suspect as far as this being approved in that time period, and now that time period being moved up only gives all these vape companies about 2 years to get their PMTAs approved if they are required to do so. Added to that, the CPSC is now enforcing their limited flow restrictions and the GCC, which requires all bottles to be tested. These restrictions actually have been on the books since at least 2016 and maybe earlier, but really haven't been talked about enforcement until now. This will force most e-liquid manufacturers to change their bottles, which triggers the necessity for a PMTA approval because they are changing their bottle, which is something they're not allowed to do unless they get this approval process. So we're going to talk about these things real quick. So the GCC is a certificate that means basically the bottles have been tested and their restrictive flow does pass the requirements for the CPSC, the Consumer Product Safety Council, I believe is how the end of that is. So without that certificate in your vape store or on your bottle or located at the manufacturer and at the retail outlets, any bottles that aren't already tested don't meet that restriction and therefore are considered an illegal product. All right, so on to the next step on this. So the PMTA, the pre-market tobacco application, Philip Morris International and Altera, which are the same company, paid close to $1 billion to get the PMTA approved for the IQOS and the heat sticks. Now they're also attempting to gain the ability to actually make health claims about this through another type of testing procedure that the FDA also offers. Now the reason why this is important is because if PMI or Philip Morris International were the first ones to go through this process, they've kind of set the bar for the cost of what this is going to be, all right? So, and the reason I bring this up is because the amount of money is staggering. They paid $1 billion to get their PMTA approved, just about $1 billion. Let's even say it's 900 million, it really wouldn't matter. It's way up there. So that was the IQOS, the heat sticks, those are the things that went through that process. $1 billion, okay? Now let's put this into smaller terms. So even if the cost for one flavor is 1% of what PMI and Altera paid, that would mean it would cost $10 million per flavor, per size to go through the FDA. That is a staggering number that I know that is just unachievable for the majority of e-liquid manufacturers out there, all right? Now here's the other sticking point. Because it was that amount of time that it took them to approve that, even if you got your application in today, there's no guarantee they'd have enough time to finish the testing, not to mention there's no guarantee that you even get to pass even after you do pay for the testing to be done. And I think this is all a calculated situation from what I'm seeing. So I believe that the Juul will actually go through the PMTA process because it is part of Altera, and I believe that if it's necessary for them to go through, and I want to preface that because I'm not sure it's even necessary for the Juul to actually go through this process. They were available in 2016, and if they are out of the area in which that's necessary, they won't even have to go through that process, all right? The reason why all these bottles have to go through the process that may have been available before 2016 is because of this restricted flow situation. So they're kind of banging us at both ends, all right? Now, the real issue that I have with this is, for the record, I have no problem with the IQOS product, none whatsoever. I was watching Grim Green. I was also watching the That's What She Said from the Ruby crew, and they were really hashing on the fact that the IQOS was a hazard reduction kind of item, and I'm totally on board with that. And if it had come out from any other company, I would have been 100% behind it, and I would have been happy to allow that to be one of the products that has gone through that process and is approved. The issue I have with it is being forced to buy my vape products from Altera is kind of like being forced to buy medicine from ISIS, okay? Even though it is something that will help people, we are talking about a company that has killed millions and millions and millions and millions of people. I, honest to God, wouldn't care if they had the cure for cancer. They need to give that to somebody else to sell, because you are the devil as far as I'm concerned. All right? And that's why I have a problem with this. Number one, you've set the bar incredibly high, $1 billion to get your PMTA approved. That means no other vape company is probably going to be able to afford to even do that. Like I said, 1% of that billion is still $10 million per bottle, per flavor. That scares me to death, because that means that a lot of this stuff that's out there is just never going to be approved. The other bottom line is that every bottle that's currently on shelves, unless you really do have one of these GCC certificates, your current bottles are illegal. So all of us are basically in an illegal business currently. There is no way around this. It's very laid out in the way that the laws are set up. So is this the end for vaping? Is, you know, vaping dead? I would say legally, yeah, unfortunately, especially if you're looking at refillable devices that you buy a bottle of e-liquid for, I would say probably so. I think the only thing that's going to survive this are going to be pod systems and things like the IQOS, and I think this could happen very, very quickly. Now is the time, if you're ever going to do it at all, to contact your representatives, because this may all just be done before even November comes around, so that we can have a good argument about this, maybe a politician that would step up. I think it's all just going to be done before then, and Big Tobacco is once again going to come out on top. A company that has killed millions, but because they're willing to give tax money and have their things heavily taxed, which really is what you're paying for. Like, Philip Morris is not paying that tax. You are paying that tax. Every time that you buy a pack of cigarettes, you're paying that tax. And if this is the type of company that the United States thinks is something that we should have, and we should make a standard up here that says this is the way that you should follow. If you want to make money, follow their example, because they're worth billions of dollars. I just think it's a horrible, horrible situation. I'm a fan of the IQOS. I'm just not a fan of the company that makes it. All right. Here at Vape AM, we always have the same message. Stop smoking or you're gonna die, but you've got to get out there and you've got to make a difference. You don't have to do everything, but you do need to do something, all right? I got to get out of here. I got to get a shower. Talk amongst yourselves. I'd love to see some comments. Please subscribe, like, dislike the video, and then ring that bell. If you want to get alerts about my shows every day, you've got to ring that bell. The rest of the week, I won't come to you so hard about this stuff. We'll just talk about some other laws. But this one kind of, it's got me really sad this morning. Like, I don't know a way around this, and I'm hoping that some of you out there maybe have a solution for this problem, because I just don't see one, and I'm usually pretty good at this. So anyway, I got to get on with the rest of my day. Got to get a shower, got to get out of here. We will be back tomorrow. I will come to you guys with some new stuff, and like I said, comment, watch the show, send me information. I will definitely read it, and we'll talk about it tomorrow. Thanks, and have a great day.
You started smoking back when Ross was still funny. You tried to quit, that's great, but not with cold turkey. The drugs and patches and the gums don't work, but you gotta find just something. That's why I've got this little smirk, because vapers1.com, they got all that you need. Vapers1.com, a new flavor every week.